Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Please check out the KCC Discord linked in the description down below. There you can talk to me and a whole bunch of KCC fans who hang out there on a regular basis. I look forward to seeing you there. Our first story today comes to us from Black Diamond 0321. Let's just make sure those timesheets are accurate. Let's jump right in. In the commercial construction world, the management team on site are generally all salaried employees of the general contractor. Superintendents, assistant superintendents, safety officers, quality control inspectors, etc. Generally, anyone in the job trailer, 8 hours a week or 80 hours, our checks are the same every time. I am a senior superintendent, and part of this role is ensuring that timesheets are filled out correctly. Individual expense reports are completed, and we've got adequate manpower from laborers to tradesmen. About 6 months ago, we had a superintendent meeting at our office. Nothing new, we do this every month. However, one of the things that was discussed happened to be timekeeping. We were told that our timesheets have to reflect 8 hours a day, regardless of how long we're actually there. And they have to be sent in no later than 9 a.m. on Monday, or checks will be withheld or late that week. To me, the timesheets have always seemed redundant because our checks don't change, and we usually look at an app we're required to download that clocks us in and out automatically according to our location relative to the site. Everyone always rolls in around 6:30 a.m. even though the day doesn't start till 7 a.m. Most of us are there until 4:30 or 5:30 p.m. It's just the nature of the beast with $50 to $200 million projects. We get gates and doors open early for subcontractors, get set up for the day, and we're ready to go. This timekeeping guideline was reiterated several times through emails, so I decided it was only right that we comply. I have 2 assistant supers, a superintendent, 2 safety officers, 2 QC officers, and 2 admin assistants in the job trailer. That's 10 in the trailer counting myself. I also have a 12-man labor crew, 14 carpenters, and 2 trade foremen. That's 38 timesheets altogether and 13 expense reports, along with random mileage reports, 51 plus individual reports altogether. That's just one project. The entire company has around 40 projects running right now. If you've used Outlook, you know that you can schedule emails to be delivered at a predetermined time and date. So here's what we did. We all, 38, meet in a parking lot about a block away from the site. Our apps clock us in when we pull onto the job site. At 6:55, we all pull out and arrive on site at 6:56 to 7, and then unlock the gates. At this point, there are roughly 200 other tradesmen standing there with tools or sitting in their vehicles waiting on gates to be opened. Once they're opened, these guys go to any one of 17 floors in the building, waiting turns for a very slow hydromobile construction elevator. By the time they're set up to work, it's easily 8 a.m. At 3:30 p.m., the gates are locked, and all personnel has to be out of the building and site. So they're all rolling up around 2:45 in order to be off-site by 3:30. This reduces production from about 7 hours a day down to around 5, or approximately 500 man-hours of production per day. I also had our assistant supers and AAs start scheduling timesheets and report deliveries, one every minute from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. on Monday mornings. From what I hear, other senior supers I told about this began doing the same type of thing. The loss in production and the annoying chime of new emails every minute had their new guidelines squashed in 3 weeks. Overtime approved for hourly employees and Saturday work approved for subcontractors, so we could get back on schedule and make up for the approximately 7,500 lost man-hours of production just from our project alone. When asked about it, I simply stated that I was following instruction precisely as it was given. There has been no more micromanaging. Ah yes, the good old I stare at a spreadsheet, so I know what's best for everybody, even though I've never been on the job site and don't know what everybody does. Dumb butt. Do me a quick favor and take a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're actually not subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. This next story comes to us from Public Pressure 4516. At-will employment cuts both ways, sister. Let's jump right in. A few years ago, my husband was laid off at the start of summer. I had a part-time gig as a teacher, but it didn't come with benefits. I had to take a job, any job, to provide health insurance while hubby looked for a new gig. I got a job as a teller at a bank. I tried but was new to keeping a till, so a few times a week my register wouldn't balance. Never very much money, under a few dollars, but the whole staff had to stay late until we straightened it out. I felt horrible for the rest of the staff. As if that shame wasn't bad enough, my supervisor, Mel, would remind me that I worked at will and they could fire me at any time. Our family's health insurance going up in smoke was terrifying to me. Sometimes it was hard to hold back tears. I got better as the summer went on, but every few weeks, if I would make a mistake, Mel would smile as she warned me that you can be fired for no cause and you'd have to leave immediately. It was so fantastically over the top. At one point, I pointed out that constant threats didn't create a healthy environment. Her smile only broadened. It goes both ways. You can quit anytime, you know. When the school year started in the fall, I needed to take my daughter to tour her new school for her first day. I asked to take my lunch in the afternoon so I could help my daughter. Though they approved it, when it came time for my lunch, they insisted I work through my lunch because they were being slammed. By then, Hubs had found a job with insurance and, even better, I'd been offered more hours teaching. Though still not full-time, it was enough. The next day, I practically floated into the bank. I waited until 10 a.m., then told Mel I needed to talk with her. She replied that she was very busy and it would have to wait until after we closed. "Oh, I won't be here then," I said. She looked like I'd smacked her with a brick. "What?" I smiled. "Remember that I needed to bring my daughter to her new school yesterday? You wouldn't let me do that, so I'm doing it this afternoon." She didn't get it at all. "You can't just take an hour off when you—" I had to interrupt. "I'm not taking an hour off, I'm leaving. For good, at noon. You kept reminding me that I work at will. Thanks for those reminders. I'm leaving for good in 2 hours." While Mel fumed, I waited on customers. I practically sang my greetings to them and was so effing cheerful. Customers kept asking me why I was so happy. I was delighted to tell them, because I'm leaving forever at noon. After a half hour of that, Mel thought I should just go right away. And I did. I effing skipped right out the door, then gave Mel a very elaborate curtsy at the door. I love the ones where someone goes to quit and they say, "Oh, but you have to give us 2 weeks notice, you can't just quit on the spot." Right. Would you give me 2 weeks notice if you were gonna fire me? Didn't think so. Have a nice day. Bye-bye now. This next story comes to us from Mr. Duck 0409. Make the nursing home pay indefinitely. Let's jump right in. Short explanation first. I have full power of attorney for my mother-in-law. This is mostly because 2 of her children are deceased, and the 2 remaining daughters are high-level managers and executives and are out of town on business a lot. I work at home, and before my mother-in-law went to the nursing home, she lived with us, and I assisted and am familiar with her financial affairs. So making me POA made sense. Yes, her daughters are set up appropriately as well. 2 years ago, a medical issue caused my mother-in-law to become bedridden and could no longer walk or take care of her own personal things. We had to get her into a home. It took 5 nursing homes and 6 moves across 2 years to get her into a place that is as close to perfect as we could get. After we finally get her squared away, she's a Medicaid patient, which means she can't have over $2,500 of personal funds, and the nursing home takes all of her Social Security and pension income, except for $60 a month. She had some funds sitting aside. However, the Medicaid approval didn't come until the 4th nursing home. Over the 2 years, she had some things paid by Medicare and private funds, and now she's spent down to under her required amount of funds she can keep. The first nursing home we had her in had probably the most draconian policies, didn't treat her well, and was about to kick her out back then unless we privately paid or get her Medicaid approval completed. We then went on a chain of going through other nursing homes that allowed her in, but the Medicaid kicked in. The first nursing home also claimed on their advertising they take Medicaid pending. The phrase means you're in the process of being approved and that hopefully they can retro bill your stay. But they didn't, no available beds, and weren't really helpful except to pester us with, "When are you going to pay?" or "When are you going to leave?" We had several other care issues with them as well. We were better treated by the next few nursing homes, but not perfect. and now have her in a safe place. About 8 months ago, about a year and a half since she had been at the first nursing home, we get a bill for several $100s. I argued with the nursing home, why the F didn't you bill us back then while she had available funds to pay this? She cannot pay now as she's under a limited income. The amount owed isn't much, I was just mad at them for the bad treatment and the crappy attitude they treated my mother-in-law with during her time there, and to top it off, sent us a bill well after she had the ability to pay. They didn't care, said they had no control over their billing. Fine, but well over a year late? Malicious Compliance Act Number 1. I told them we'd pay, based on the amount she could really get out of her $60 a month that Medicaid lets her keep, $5 per month. They weren't happy, but I sent a $5 payment monthly to the parent company of the nursing home. This only lasted for about a few months, but they were also slow to collect the $5 in their billing system, so I actually paid an extra $5 once to keep ahead. Then, they started getting antsy with the small amount they were getting and started including more dire wording in their bills, got more threatening phone calls. Whether any of the threats were real or not, the letters weren't fun. As I said, the amount wasn't much. I went ahead and used my own funds, paid off the bill, just to keep the nursing home from escalating. But as I said, I had sent an extra single $5 just to keep ahead. Malicious Compliance Act Number 2. The nursing home is paid off, however, they have a negative balance, owing us $5. The nursing home's billing system is now issuing a monthly bill showing the negative $5 and also included an envelope for payment. I figure this is costing the nursing home about 75 cents a month, printing a bill, using 2 envelopes, and mailing it to us. As far as I know, it appears their system will keep spending 75 cents a month forever. So in a year, they will have spent $8 to send us a negative balance bill, and that will just keep building and building. Haven't gotten any other notification that they would return it. I'm not going to waste my time contacting them. They'll sit and eat it. If that has a postage paid envelope in it, you really need to send something back to them. Even if it's just your junk mail shoved up into that envelope and they don't know where it came from, something needs to go back to them. Then somebody on the other end has to open that envelope and get rid of the stuff you sent to them, so you're costing them a lot more than that 75 cents you mentioned. This next story comes to us from Murphy's Mom 08. Don't leave the locker room? You got it, boss. Let's jump right in. Several years ago, I was a high school PE teacher. The district I worked in was Title I with a huge population of ELL and low-income kids, 95% or so. For hygiene reasons, we required the kids to wear PE uniforms and change for PE. Kids also showered after class. Because of our students' socioeconomic standards, I always had spare clothes and towels the kids could use and offered to wash PE clothes weekly for students who didn't have access to laundry facilities. This practice was also done by the male PE teacher and has actually been around since before I started. Before I get to the malicious compliance, there are a few more details you need to set the scene. Classroom management in teaching is a whole art in and of itself. PE is kind of next level because you have 30 plus kids all running around and a lot of area to cover. In addition, the genius that designed our school decided not to have the locker rooms connect to the gym, but rather put a hallway in between. This was somewhat of a management nightmare because there were basically 3 places you had to supervise and there wasn't a way to watch all 3 at once. On top of that, locker rooms had to be locked between classes. The laundry facility was also located in the hallway between the gym and locker rooms. Two-way radios were also frequently used by all PE teachers in the district as well as admin, counselors, etc. for safety and to find kids when outside, before school or after school, etc. Finally, because our district was a decent size but rural, it was a stepping stone for a lot of want-to-be admin. They would come in for a year or 2 and then leave. This revolving door of admin also made it a bit frustrating because rules and climate changed every few years while people tried to leave their mark to get hired for the next gig. Now, on to the malicious compliance. As I mentioned, it was always a little crazy trying to supervise kids everywhere, but for the most part, the kids were really good and respectful, and we had a pretty good system. I would often duck out of the locker room between classes to start laundry, let kids into the locker room during a class period, or open it up for sports teams leaving early at the end of the day. These sort of frequent interruptions happen more often than you would think, but we made it work. That is, until we got Attila the Hun as principal. This particular chick thought her crap didn't stink and came in with the idea that everything in the school sucked, and it was her job to fix it. She was also an alcoholic that had learned to work the system and stepped on everyone she could trying to get to the top. Well, one day, she wandered past PE while sneaking into the building late to work and decided this was her time to make a point. I had left to go put laundry in the dryer, and she proceeded to chew my butt out for leaving the locker room unsupervised. Keep in mind, this was during a passing period where other teachers are allowed to step out of their room to go to the bathroom, make copies, etc. This applied to everyone except myself and the male teacher in PE. I should add, I was the union rep, and she hated me for it because the union held her accountable. I was told under no circumstances was I allowed to leave the locker room during the day unless it was to go to class, and that no students were allowed anywhere without supervision. Okay, boss, you got it. I also need to mention that everyone else in the district knew how much she sucked, and most other building admin and teachers had also had run-ins with her. I was also pretty well respected, having been in the district a while and worked in several other buildings and had been in teacher leadership positions. The day she told me that, I put my plan into place and made sure I always had my two-way radio with me. I laid low for a week or two and then put my plan into action. First thing, I needed to put laundry in the dryer, so I radioed High School Girls PE to Attila the Hun over the entire district radio. She responded thinking it was urgent, to which I stated, I need to go put clothes into the dryer and need coverage in the locker room. She tried to tell me that I didn't need to radio for this, to which I reminded her that she insisted we never leave the locker room unless it was to start class. About 15 minutes later, she strolls down rather pissed off to let me go do my mundane task. I am instantly flooded with text messages from other admin, teachers, etc. who have access to radios and heard it go out laughing. A few days later, she sent a kid down to change because they're going to in-house and had gang-affiliated clothing on. Kid comes to me while I'm teaching asking to open the locker room. You guessed it. I got on the radio and asked her to come down and unlock the door and wait, reminding her that kids are not to be unsupervised. This goes on for about a week with about 4 to 5 radio calls a day. Anytime students, sports teams, or anyone else needed to get into the locker room, or I had tasks to do, it went out over the radio for all to hear, reminding her each time of the rules. She finally caught on to what I was doing and then started ignoring me on the radio. At that point, I would radio to all other admin in the school and district, or anyone else that could come and assist, since it appeared our admin was unavailable. Also, not a good look for her. I think this malicious compliance was one of the last straws for Attila, because shortly thereafter, she was fired. I think the superintendent got word of all her shadiness, but me constantly on the radio didn't help. He ended up coming to me and the male teacher, letting us know we could go back to actually doing our jobs and we wouldn't be punished. As an update, she was subsequently fired from other admin jobs in our state every year for about 3 years until COVID hit. I have zero regrets. Well, nobody cares about what's going on until everybody hears that there's a problem and someone is ignoring it. Then everybody cares. Check out all 4 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.